Hello everyone, this is Babamots. Welcome to another Homeworlds game replay. This is between John Cooper and Andy Looney again. John Cooper invented Homeworlds and Andy Looney invented the pieces and helps run Looney Labs that sells the pieces. And they play each other often. We've seen a couple of games from them so far, but I think Andy has won all the games we've seen between them. And I think I showed one other John Cooper game, which he also lost. So I'm going to keep doing these once in a while, at least until we see a John Cooper victory. It's going to happen. All right. John starts off with a yellow banker. Andy takes a yellow fortress. John moves out right away. Andy trades for a little blue, putting John in danger of getting locked out of blue. John sticks to the, well, I guess John could have traded the little green for a little blue just now, but builds green instead. Andy takes the last small blue. John takes the last little green. Andy builds green. John also gets a medium green, so John will be able to join the blue economy at the medium level. Andy spreads out his blues, maybe. No, spreads out the green instead. Spreading out the greens is probably better since John is actually in competition for the greens. Andy doesn't want to get left behind too much. John... Oh. John pulling that technique that I recommended to another player a while ago, to deliberately overpopulate your own ships just so that you can get a large. John chose not to trigger the catastrophe. I have written at great length about why you should always trigger catastrophes, even if you don't like the catastrophe, but Andy will do that for him. Thank you, Andy. So John comes out with a bit of a material advantage, I'd say, though John is behind in the blues. And so Andy might get large blues pretty quickly here if John doesn't look out. John thinking about trading for yellow or a number of things. Discovering a yellow star with a small ship. Andy says it's time for a shopping spree, and I think they're right. Andy thinking about other things. Oh, just an ordinary blue build. Okay. I think the shopping spree would be all right, though. Either way, John will have to trade a large to get into the blues. John doing John things, getting aggressive, moving their little green into Andy's colony. It can't do all that much there. I'm not sure what this is about. Andy trading for red. John moves the little green into Andy's home. I guess it's just that John can overpopulate Andy's large ship if Andy doesn't capture it. And if Andy does capture it, they're losing a medium for a small, which isn't the end of the world, but maybe a small win for John, but it took John so many turns to set that up that I think it was a loss overall. All right, John finally putting their big green somewhere that it can do something else. No? Just building another green. All right, Andy spreading out the blues. I think Andy's going to dominate the blue, and John's going to wish they'd got one. Okay, yeah, Andy building more blue. Accidentally offering a draw. I wonder if, yeah, I don't know what John's got in mind here. I think John's difficult to predict. Spreading out the greens, and now Andy's built another large ship. Andy's caught up in larges. Andy's dominating the blues so they can milk the cow, as as I like to say, trading that large blue for other colors and repeatedly rebuilding. Oh, Andy, interesting. Plugging up the blue bank with a blue sacrifice? I mean, I think getting red is a good idea, but they could have done it with their large and been able to build more blue. I I just don't like blue sacrifices, especially when I'm dominating the blue bank. Um, I think Andy should have held on to that advantage. Um, okay, John gets red maybe? Yeah, John gets a red, but that's not a great place for it in this colony. That red can't run away. It's a kind of a sitting duck if Andy wants to come in and threaten to capture. Andy taking a little more blue. John taking some yellow. That's 3 yellows at their homeworld, but Andy only has 1 yellow ship. It can't get to John's home. Andy getting more blue. John showing no interest in the blue at all. I really think that's going to hurt in the long run. John joining up a couple of their ships. Andy, I think, can invade that colony and threaten to capture both of those ships, and Andy, I think, would just love to do that. But Andy instead is going to spread out the blues, preparing to get even more large ships that way, I guess. John takes a green. There's some chance Andy has left himself with just 2 green ships at home for so long that Andy may not still be thinking about his vulnerability to a bluebird loss. Maybe that's John's plan. I don't know. We'll see. Andy sacrifices little green to build a blue. Okay, yeah, so I think Andy was starting to get a little nervous about the bluebird possibilities, and so sacrificed a green. Oh, well, I guess sacrificing a green was the only way to build blue. Build that large blue here in this colony that didn't have any green, so Andy may or may not have been thinking about bluebirds. John, on the other hand, says it's time for a green shopping spree. Yeah, that's okay. Andy now has his choice of building large green or large blue. I think he should take the green, since otherwise John will take it. Trades the blue for green. I think Andy is maybe worried about the bluebird now, but even more worried than he really needs to be. John was not in a position to bluebird Andy immediately, and Andy, if John did try to start moving in, Andy would have a turn to react, and I think maybe is preempting that bluebird earlier than he really needs to. Okay, John, thinking about a Y3 sacrifice. Oh. That's interesting. It supernovas Andy's colony, but I think Andy actually lost less material in that exchange than John did, and Andy was ahead on material to begin with, so this puts John even more behind in material. I don't like that overall. Andy says, blue shopping spree. Almost cleans out the blues, leaves room for one more blue build in the Promethea colony. John discovers that large blue as a star. Andy, I'm fairly surprised that Andy hasn't threatened John's colonies yet. I would expect, Andy describes himself as a rather passive player, but I really think Andy's better move would be to invade the Arrakis colony. Prepare to capture one of John's 4 ships. John thinking about trading away the green. No, they build another green. So this is now an even more tempting target for Andy to invade. But Andy doesn't. They advance a blue ship. John trades for yellow. Still making this a less attractive target now, I think, because either of the ships can run away if this colony gets invaded. Andy trading for yellow. Okay, John building green. John has a pretty good green advantage. There are no more large ships to be had in the green, though. But there are mediums, so maybe that'll be useful soon. Andy, though, can keep building mediums and larges. John... That's really a pretty weird thing. The best I can think of for this little yellow is that John could build up into a catastrophe against this medium, but that'll take John several more turns. Andy can build up a lot more material in that time. I guess John might be thinking of capturing this little blue, but Andy can capture back, and then neither player has any red, so Andy gets a ship for pretty cheap. So in that exchange, John would lose their small red, Andy would lose their medium red, but Andy would gain the little yellow. I think overall that's slightly better for Andy. So I don't know what that invasion was about, but Andy decides to run away anyhow. Yeah, if I was Andy, I'd ignore that threat. I'd build another large ship. Just clean out the whole large bank. John takes another yellow. That puts John in danger of yellow overpopulation, and after that, Andy can start moving in blues pretty soon for the win. So I think that's definitely a bad choice for John. Building medium yellow, that's better. Better than suicide, that is. But even there, Andy, I think, shouldn't mind capturing both of John's yellows. Even though that runs Andy out of red entirely, John can't get anywhere all that threatening in one turn. And so Andy would have time to get another red. Okay, so John did take back that move. I think that was, taking it back is the right call. It was not a great move, I think. All right, pushing for the little yellow instead. I think getting yellow out of your homeworld is a good idea, and taking up more of the blue stars. John now occupies all 3 blue larges as stars, keeping Andy from getting more large ships. But if Andy trades away mediums, then John can get or Andy can build him more medium ships. Okay, this is a more interesting threat. John moves into the Earthsea colony, which has a yellow star, so if Andy were to capture this invader, John would get a supernova, taking out Andy's spare large ship, and also putting a small blue back in the bank, preventing Andy from building the large blue that... Oh, there was already a B2 in the bank, but it would put a B1 back in the bank. That would destroy Andy's only red ship. That would be a really neat catastrophe. That would be a big deal for John. John would still be behind in material, but not by nearly as much. But I don't think Andy's going to let that stand. Accidental draw offer again. Just evacuating the Y3, I think, is the right choice. Um, that way Andy's threatening to capture John's only red and reduces the yellow concentration, so there's not going to be a supernova in John's colony, in Andy's colony anymore. John sacrifices the Y1 that was at that blue star to evacuate the little red. Okay, but Andy can just chase you there. Andy's got a big yellow. And yeah, more important, Andy can just, well, maybe not more important, but Andy also gets to capture the invading little yellow and may pursue the small red at his leisure. John, time for a green shopping spree? Yeah, that's a good idea, I think. Cleans out the rest of the greens. John might even, well, John isn't going to be able to milk the cow so easily, despite dominating the greens. Andy does have one green, so if John trades away their large green, Andy can build it. And if Andy didn't want to for any reason, Andy could just discover it as a star very easily. So I don't think John will get all that much out of his green monopoly. Andy builds some more yellow. Yeah, so Andy's got a complete yellow monopoly now. John only has access to yellow at his own home star. John sacrificing the medium green, maybe? Factory building for 2 reds. All right. I think it might be even better for John to get into the blues. Well, no, if they did it with a medium, then Andy would get a large blue. And if John did it with his large blue mothership, if John traded his mothership for blue, Andy would get a cheap star demolition. So never mind. I take it back. John should not get into the blue economy right now. But building up the smalls in the small reds does not feel all that great. John is pretty darn stuck. Andy recalls the red ship to the homeworld. John, yeah, that's one thing about building more reds, is that John can actually go on the offensive a little bit here. Potentially, though I think well, no, that is the only way that John can go on the offensive. Um, John can't move from anywhere but the homeworld, and if John moved the small out of their home, then Andy could just capture wherever he moved it to. So this is this is not a good move, though, because John's left his home without a large ship. Andy can just move in his Y3 or a couple of other ships. I'm not sure I quite understand why Andy needed to do all of that. I guess... No, I don't understand. But, yeah, John doesn't have a way... Well, John can sacrifice the G3 to rebuild G3 back at home. John could have green teleported to save himself from this immediate predicament, but John was very far behind. Okay, well, sorry, John. No win for you this time, but we'll find one. We'll find one before too long. Your plays are very entertaining. You get aggressive, and it makes it fun to watch. Anyway, thank you to everybody watching.